Most runners are out here logging miles, tracking splits, buying new shoes every 4 months, and still, wondering why they're not getting faster. And the uncomfortable truth: it's not your mileage, it's not your shoes, it's not your genes. It's the thing you keep doing every single run that you've convinced yourself is just your style. You've built an entire identity around a training mistake, and nobody told you. Until right now. Before we go any further, if you're new here, hit that subscribe button right now. Don't wait until the end. This channel exists because runners like you are tired of generic advice that sounds smart but changes nothing. Hit like if you've ever finished a run feeling like you worked harder than your results show. Drop a comment telling me where you're watching from. Seriously, I read every single one. Share this with one running buddy who needs to hear it. And if you want to go deeper, become a channel member through the link in the pinned comment. Your membership is literally what keeps this thing alive, keeps the content free, and keeps us from putting ads every 30 seconds. Alright, let's get into it. Here's the setup. You've been running for maybe 2 years, maybe 5. You do your long runs on weekends. You throw in a tempo here and there. You've done a race or two. You're not a couch potato. You're not lazy. But you look at your training log and something just doesn't add up. The effort doesn't match the outcome. You feel like you're working, but the clock doesn't agree. And slowly, quietly, without even realizing it, you've started to believe the story that you're just not built for this. That some people have the gift, and you don't. That your ceiling is lower than other people's floors. That story is a lie, and I'm going to show you exactly where it comes from. The single biggest performance killer in recreational running isn't overtraining. It's not undertraining. It's not skipping strength work, though you should probably do more of that. It's running every single workout at the same pace. Medium pace. Not easy, not hard. Medium. The gray zone. The effort that feels respectable enough to feel like work, but never hard enough to actually force an adaptation. Day after day. Week after week. Year after year. You're spinning in place and calling it training. Here's what happens physiologically when you live in that middle zone. Your body is incredibly smart. Smarter than you. When you run at a moderate, consistent effort, let's call it a 6 or 7 out of 10, your body figures out that pace very quickly. It gets efficient at it. And efficient means it stops changing. Stops adapting. Why would it? You're not asking it to do anything it can't already handle. You're comfortable. And comfort is the enemy of progress. Your aerobic system looks at your training log and says, "Cool, I've got this covered." And then it stops building new mitochondria, stops expanding your capillary density, stops pushing your VO2 max. You've essentially told your body that this level of performance is the goal, so it stops there, right there. And that's where you get stuck. The frustrating part, the part that makes runners feel like it's a talent problem, is that this medium effort approach doesn't feel wrong. It feels like work. You're sweating. You're tired after. You feel virtuous. You posted the Strava. The effort is real. But the stimulus for change? That's missing. And because it feels hard, you assume it must be effective. That assumption is costing you months, maybe years of progress. Now hold on, because this is where most videos would just tell you to run faster sometimes and call it a day. That's not what I'm doing here. Because the real problem isn't that you don't know intervals exist. You do. The real problem is why you're avoiding the extremes. And this is where it gets a little personal. Most runners avoid truly easy running because it feels embarrassing. You slow down to an easy pace, and suddenly you feel like you're barely moving. People pass you. Your average pace looks terrible on Strava. Your ego takes a hit. So you speed up, just a little. Just enough to feel like you're doing something. And that, just a little, is exactly enough to pull you out of the aerobic zone where your base is built, and into the gray zone where nothing gets built at all. And on the other side, most runners avoid truly hard efforts because they're uncomfortable in a way that feels different from just being tired. Threshold work, VO2 max intervals, real speed, these are legitimately unpleasant. Your legs burn, your lungs protest. It's not the good kind of tired. It's the kind where you want to stop. And because you've been taught your whole life to listen to your body, you slow down, you back off, every time. The result is that you never actually stress your system enough to force it to get stronger. So here's what your training week actually looks like for most of you, and I say this with love. Moderately hard, moderately hard, moderately hard, slightly less hard on Sunday, because that's the long run, and you're told to go easy, except you don't actually go easy. That's it. That's the whole program. Every run lives between a 6 and a 7.5 out of 10, week after week, and you wonder why the plateau hit so hard. The solution has a name. Exercise physiologists call it polarized training. Elite coaches call it the 80-20 rule. I call it doing the runs you've been avoiding. The concept is simple, even though the execution requires discipline. Roughly 80% of your running should be genuinely easy. Aerobic base pace, conversational, nose breathing if you can manage it, ego checked at the door, easy. And the remaining 20% should be genuinely hard. Structured workouts with real intensity, real rest intervals, real effort at the top end of your capacity. What you do not want is a whole lot of running in between those two zones. That middle zone is the trap. Now, before you panic and think this means you have to become a track athlete, let's be clear about what genuinely easy actually means. For most recreational runners, easy pace is slower than you think, significantly slower. If you're running a 9-minute mile in your races, your easy pace is probably closer to 11 or even 11:30. That might feel embarrassingly slow. It might feel like you're jogging in place. But that pace, that specific physiological zone, is where you're building the aerobic engine that everything else runs on. You're building mitochondria. You're building fat-burning capacity. You're building the base that allows your hard days to actually be hard. Skip this, and you're building a house on sand. Looks fine from the outside, falls apart under pressure. Here's the curiosity hook I want you to sit with for a second, because this is going to reframe the next part of the video. The runners who look the most impressive at easy paces, the ones gliding along at what looks like effortless speed, they didn't start there. They built there, slowly, over months of running what felt too easy. The easy pace of an elite runner looks fast to you, not because they're more talented in some abstract genetic sense, but because they've done the unglamorous work of building an aerobic base so strong that the pace that taxes them is simply higher than yours. That gap is closable. It just requires patience you haven't been willing to give it yet. So let's talk about the hard side of the equation, because I want you to understand what hard actually means in this context. Hard doesn't mean uncomfortably fast. Hard means structured, purposeful, and intense enough that you couldn't maintain it indefinitely. We're talking about things like mile repeats at your 5K pace with real recovery between efforts. We're talking about threshold intervals, 10 to 20 minutes at a pace you can maintain, but absolutely would not want to for much longer. We're talking about strides, short, fast accelerations that wake up your neuromuscular system and remind your legs what quick turnover feels like. These efforts are uncomfortable in a specific, productive way. And the key word is structured. You're not just running fast because you feel good today. You're running a prescribed effort at a prescribed pace with prescribed recovery because the adaptation you're chasing requires that specificity. Here's where most self-coached runners go wrong with intensity. They treat hard days like an emotional decision. If I feel good, I'll push. If I feel tired, I'll just cruise. And so the hard days are inconsistent, and the easy days are not actually easy because you still feel that pull to maintain a respectable pace. The whole system breaks down. Nothing is extreme enough to create the adaptation you need. You're permanently in the middle. And the middle, in running physiology, is where progress goes to die. I want to give you one completely practical thing you can do, starting on your very next run. Just one. Don't overwhelm yourself. Here it is. Take your next easy run and actually run it easy. Use one of two checks. Either you can hold a full conversation, not fragments, not gasping answers, a real conversation, or your heart rate stays below 75% of your maximum. That's the ceiling. If you blow past that threshold and you're alone and there's nobody to talk to, you're going too fast. Slow down. Yes, even if it means walking up the hills. Yes, even if your pace looks embarrassing. Run the whole thing at that effort. Don't speed up for the last mile because the end is in sight. Don't surge past someone who's going slower than you. Stay disciplined. Log it. Notice how you feel. I'm willing to bet you'll feel surprisingly good an hour after finishing. Not wiped out, not stiff, just pleasantly worked. That feeling is your aerobic system getting fed the right food for the first time in a long time. Do that consistently for 4 weeks before you even think about adding the intensity layer. Build the base first. You need that foundation before the hard work has anywhere to land. Now here's the part nobody talks about. The reason polarized training is so hard to stick with isn't physical. It's psychological. When you slow down your easy runs, you will feel like you're going backwards. Your data will look worse before it looks better. Your average pace across the week will drop. Your training load will feel lighter, even when you're adding the hard work correctly. And in that window, that 2, 3, 4-week window, where the adaptation hasn't kicked in yet, but the discomfort of changing your habits is very real. Most runners quit. They go back to the gray zone because it feels more like training. They confuse the sensation of effort with the fact of progress. And the plateau continues. This is the moment where you have to trust the process more than you trust your feelings. That is genuinely hard. I'm not minimizing it. But it's also the only way through. Let me tell you about a specific type of runner I've seen over and over again. They're fit. They run 4 or 5 days a week. They're not new to this. They've done a half marathon, maybe a full. Their easy runs look like 9:30 to 10-minute miles. Their long runs are the same. Their speed work is running a little faster on Tuesdays, maybe around a 9 flat. And they've been stuck at roughly the same half marathon finish time for 2 years. They're frustrated. They've tried adding more miles. It didn't work. They tried a different training plan. Still the same result. They've started wondering if they've just peaked. If this is their body saying enough. It isn't. Here's what's actually happening. Their entire aerobic system is undertrained because they've never actually spent time in the zone where it builds. Their top-end speed is untouched because their hard days are just slightly faster versions of their easy days. Their body has adapted perfectly to one specific demand, medium effort, medium duration, and has zero reason to change. The fix isn't mysterious, but it requires them to run what feels embarrassingly slow 3 or 4 days a week, and to run something that genuinely hurts 1 or 2 days a week, and to trust that the combination of those two things will produce what the middle never could. And here's the aha moment I want you to actually sit with. Not just nod at. Sit with it. The runners who seem naturally talented, the ones who show up to your local 5K and make it look effortless, they are not doing something categorically different from what you could be doing. What they're doing is the extremes consistently. They're going genuinely easy on easy days. They're going genuinely hard on hard days. They've done this long enough that their easy pace is now your race pace. That's the whole secret. There's no special drill. There's no secret supplement. There's no genetic lottery ticket they cashed in that you missed. They've just been polarized for longer than you've been trying. The gap between you and them is not talent. It's time plus correct training, and correct training starts with getting out of the middle. Now I want to address something directly, because I know some of you are thinking it. You're thinking, okay, but I have limited time. I can only run 4 days a week. I can't afford to waste 2 of those days going slow. Here's the reframe. You can't afford not to. If you're running 4 days a week and all 4 are in the gray zone, you are wasting all 4. 2 easy days and 2 genuinely hard days will do more for your fitness in 12 weeks than 12 weeks of 4 medium days ever has or ever will. The volume doesn't need to be high for this to work. The distribution needs to be right. Quality of stimulus beats quantity of medium effort grinding every single time. Let me give you the actual structure. If you're running 4 days, here's how it breaks down. 2 of those days are easy runs. True easy runs, by the definition we already talked about. Conversational pace, heart rate under 75%, no ego, no Strava performance anxiety. 1 day is your long run, also easy, just longer duration. And 1 day is your quality session, alternating week to week between a threshold workout and an interval workout. Threshold day looks like a 10-minute warm-up, 20 minutes at a hard but sustainable effort, 10-minute cool-down. Interval day looks like a warm-up, 6 to 8 times 400 meters, at close to your mile race pace with 90-second jogs between, cool-down. That's it. 4 days, done right, will absolutely change your running. More importantly, it will change it in a direction you can actually feel and measure. Here's one more thing I want to plant in your head before we close this out. A thought that's going to follow you into your next run, whether you want it to or not. The next time you're out there and you feel the pull to speed up, not because you're running a workout, not because you're racing, just because slowing down feels wrong, I want you to ask yourself one question. Who am I running this pace for? If the honest answer is for Strava, or so I don't feel slow, or so the person I'm passing doesn't judge me, slow down immediately. Because you are literally sabotaging your own fitness to protect your ego from an audience that isn't watching as closely as you think. The people passing you on the trail are not thinking about your pace. They're thinking about their own. You're running a performance for a crowd that isn't paying attention, and it's costing you the actual result you came here to build. Running alone is one of the great honest sports. The clock doesn't care about your excuses. Your GPS doesn't care about how hard it felt. And your aerobic system absolutely does not care about what your easy pace looks like to someone else. It only responds to what you actually do. So do the right thing, even when it's uncomfortable in the ego-bruising way rather than the burn-in-your-lungs way. Especially then. The change you're looking for isn't on the other side of more miles. It's not hiding inside a different training plan. It's not waiting for you to finally find your talent. It's on the other side of getting out of the middle, going truly easy, going truly hard, and having the patience to let your body catch up to what you're asking it to do. 4 weeks of this, done honestly, and you will feel a difference. 8 weeks and your training partners will notice. 12 weeks and you'll be the one someone else is looking at thinking, what does that person know that I don't? Now you know. Before you close this tab, I want to be real with you for a second. Making a video like this takes hours. Writing, filming, editing, putting something together that's actually worth your time, and not just another generic run more, eat clean, believe in yourself video. The reason we can keep doing that, the reason this channel exists without turning into a commercial every 3 minutes, is because of the members. If this video gave you something real, something you're going to think about on your next run, consider becoming a member through the link in the pinned comment. It's a small thing that makes a massive difference to us, and in return, you get access to deeper content, longer conversations, and a community of runners who are done with the excuses and ready to actually get better. Hit like if this hit different. Drop a comment with where you're watching from and tell me Honestly, what zone do you think most of your runs have been in? Be honest. This is a safe space. And share this with one runner who needs to hear it. Not 5. Just 1. The right one. The one who's been grinding for 2 years with nothing to show for it. They'll thank you. And speaking of things runners don't want to admit, next time, we're going somewhere most running channels are too polite to go. There's a pattern I've seen in nearly every runner who has ever come to me, stuck and frustrated, something hiding underneath the training data that has nothing to do with fitness, nothing to do with mileage, and everything to do with the story they're telling themselves about pain, about discomfort, and about what they actually deserve from this sport. It's the conversation nobody wants to have, and that's exactly why we're having it. Most runners will never admit this about themselves. Make sure you're subscribed so you're there when it drops, because this one is going to be uncomfortable. The good kind. See you there.